In this alternate version of the United States, a military takeover has turned the country into a totalitarian dystopia. A man known as the Major is the only leading figure. Eventually the regime creates a deadly competition called the Long Walk, where the winner will receive fame, fortune, and one wish for anything they want. The entire event is broadcast on national television, and for many people it's their only chance to escape poverty. Volunteers sign up for the competition and a lottery chooses 50 to compete. The only competitor from the state of Maine is Ray, who is being taken to the event by his mother Ginny. The mood in the car is clearly tense and Ginny wishes Ray would change his mind about competing, but Ray reminds her it's not her decision to make. When they arrive at the location, Ginny hugs Ray tightly and breaks down as she says goodbye. Afterward, Ray goes through the front gate and meets Peter, who is very friendly. In fact, most of the players appear to be friendly and soon they're all happily chatting while waiting for the event to start. Curly keeps pacing while trying to hide how nervous he is, and the other boys notice he looks very young. He claims to be 18 but nobody believes him. Soon the Major arrives and gives each boy a metal tag with their assigned number, telling them that they're men now. Then he gives a speech, reminding them that the Long Walk was created to inspire and reintegrate the value of work ethic in a country that has been struggling financially since the war. Every year after the event there's a spike in production, so the Major truly thinks this works and the nation's problem is just laziness. While he talks, the competitors are given bracelets that will measure their speed. Next the Major goes over the rules. Everyone must walk until there's only one person left and there's no finish line. They have to keep a speed of 3 miles per hour, and if they fall below that, they get a warning. If they can't make speed in 10 seconds, they get another warning. At 3 warnings, they'll be shot. Stepping off the pavement will get them shot without warning. The Major ends his speech by making everyone cheer and shoots his gun in the air to officially start the competition. The boys start walking and military trucks follow them down the road as they record everything. The area is empty and bleak because crowds are only allowed on the final stretch. At the beginning only those who live near the road can come out to watch. A cop salutes as the boys pass by and an annoyed Gary gives him the finger before spitting on the ground. At first everyone is serious and concentrated, but by mile 5 many of the boys are chatting. Stebbins slows down a little and immediately gets a warning, so he fixes his speed. The other boys wonder if it was a strategy to test the limits. Gary has to stop walking when he feels a rock in his shoe and soon the soldiers are giving him the warnings. After the third warning a soldier gets ready to shoot, but Gary puts the shoe back on just in time to keep moving. The other boys think he's an idiot but Gary claims he did it to get some rest. By mile 7, the boys are chatting about the prize. Arthur admits he's only here for the money but Ray says there are more important things. The other boys are skeptical so Ray explains by going on a rant about the system. The government makes them believe they're volunteering to participate, but actually the system has made them so poor and desperate that they're here because they have no better choice. Some of the boys think it's not a good idea to talk negatively about the Long Walk on camera, but Peter is impressed and agrees they should use the money to help people. Then Peter lights a cigarette. Hank warns him that it's a bad idea, but Arthur asks him to share. Their teasing is interrupted by Richard pushing through. He's writing down everyone's names and numbers because he wants to write a book about the Long Walk that will make him famous. Peter thinks it's dumb because if he wins, he'll already be rich and famous. Sometime later Curly yells in pain because he feels a cramp in his legs. He starts to slow down and the soldiers warn him, so Ray helps Curly walk while he and Peter keep encouraging him with words. Feeling motivated, Curly tries to keep moving on his own, but the pain is too much and he collapses on the ground. After the third warning, a soldier shoots Curly in the head. The shock causes Ray to slow down and he receives a warning too, so Peter pushes him to move faster. Moments later the Major appears on the road with a speech for Curly, saying that a comrade has fallen and he must be remembered fondly for his bravery. Ray asks a soldier for a refill for his canteen and touches the man's gun in the process as a way to knock on wood. When Peter needs to relieve himself, he just pees in the middle of the road. By mile 17, they see a girl near the road holding a sign and cheering for Ray. The other boys tease him for having a fan, even though she's too young. Suddenly a boy has a seizure and collapses on the road. The soldiers start giving the warnings while Gary jumps over him, mocking him for hiding medical issues. Soon the soldiers shoot the sick boy and Gary says everyone should be happy because they have less competition. On mile 25, Gary starts harassing a boy named Rank, who at first tries to ignore him. However, when Gary insults his mother, Rank gets angry and tries to punch him. Gary dodges all his blows and Rank ends up falling pretty hard on the ground. He doesn't get up in time and the soldiers shoot him. The other boys start yelling at Gary and blaming him for what happened, saying they can't wait until he's eliminated too. Later a boy has to lower his pants so he can poop while he walks. No matter how much he tries to keep moving he still slows down and the soldiers shoot him too. By mile 35 the Major shows up again to congratulate them for reaching their first night, using lots of buzzwords to convince them that this is a noble cause. Ray starts dozing off and dreams about his mother. The soldiers give him a warning when he slows down and Peter has to wake him up. The boys chat about their families while they walk and Ray accidentally slows down again, so he receives a second warning. Ray speeds up but after a few steps he stumbles and gets his third warning. Now he'll have to walk without mistakes for 3 hours to clean his warnings. Peter tries to be encouraging, but Ray is nervous and snaps, saying Peter is only pretending to care. At that moment the group reaches a steep hill that makes it extra hard to walk. Soon everyone is getting tired and several boys fall, so they get shot. Ray tries to ignore all the death behind him but has to deal with Gary mocking him. Eventually Ray starts to slow down but Peter catches him just in time. Ray appreciates it and apologizes for his outburst earlier. In the morning, the boys reach mile 59. After all the deaths on the hill last night there are only 18 players left. By mile 67 Hank is barely hanging on. Peter tries checking on him but Hank snaps and tells him off. Meanwhile Richard has been walking with a twisted ankle and he's finally slowing down. The soldiers warn him and Ray tries to encourage him to keep moving, but Richard can't take it anymore and collapses. A soldier shoots him in the head while two children watch nearby. When the walk reaches 100 miles, the major reappears to congratulate them. A boy tries to use the chance to escape by running into a building, but the soldiers immediately shoot him down. At mile 103, the boys discuss what they'll do with their wish and Peter says he'd ask for 2 winners instead of 1. Ray wants to change the entire system, but the others point out that the wish can't directly alter the state. They get frustrated so they start cursing the major and the competition. In the evening it starts raining pretty heavily. Ray can barely stay awake so Peter is helping him walk. In the morning they reach mile 144 and Arthur stops to poop. The soldiers quickly warn him so he has to keep going before finishing. The boys keep chatting to forget about their exhaustion, so Ray decides to tell Peter about his dad, who he considers his hero. His father used to teach him illegal subjects like philosophy and the government considered him a traitor. The major himself asked him to drop his lessons and swear loyalty, but Ray's father refused and was immediately executed. Ray then reveals his secret. He's joined the long walk to wish for a gun and kill the major. He complains about the people by the road who like watching them suffer, but Peter reminds them they're victims of the system too. They were conditioned to think this is noble. By mile 170 nobody is in the mood to chat. A boy with bleeding feet can't take it anymore and begs the soldiers for help as he tries to climb on a tank. A soldier immediately knocks him down and the tank runs over his legs. He still receives the warnings while he screams in pain and eventually is shot in the head. The scene causes another boy to lose his mind and he takes off his clothes before running off the road, which gets him shot too. Hank then notices that he's lost a tooth. In the evening the group reaches mile 201 and Hank is barely standing. Ray tries to encourage him, but Hank is done. He turns around and approaches the soldiers in a truck, which gets him shot down in the spot. A devastated Arthur runs to hold his friend as he dies and receives a warning, so Ray has to pull him away to save him. The next morning they reach mile 209 with only 6 boys left. They remember that Hank had a wife and agree that the winner will donate some of the prize money to her. Their conversation doesn't include Gary, who starts feeling left out. He approaches Ray and reveals that Rank's death has been haunting him since it happened, but he never truly meant for the boy to die. Gary apologizes but also insists it wasn't his fault. He promises to donate money to Hank's wife too, so the group agrees to include him in their comradeship. As they keep walking Gary goes on a rant about the situation, clearly unable to handle the guilt. After snapping at the others, he walks ahead and uses a spoon to self-delete. The soldiers still give him the warnings and shoot him in the head as usual. On mile 260, the boys try to keep the mood up by singing. On the 5th day they reach mile 278 and take the road to the Ray's hometown. Kali thinks Ray's lucky because he'll get to see his mother, but Ray thinks it's a curse because he'll have to abandon her again. By mile 286 they start crossing the town and one of Ray's boots comes apart. Arthur points out that an uneven balance will make things harder so Ray takes off both shoes, revealing that his feet have been bleeding. When he sees Ginny nearby, Ray can't help it and runs to try to hug her. Ginny steps back and urges him to stay on the road while Peter pulls Ray just in time to stop the soldiers from shooting. Ray yells a final apology to his crying mother as he realizes he's no better than his father. As the walk continues Peter tells Ray about his own family. His parents died during the war and he was sent to live with his uncle, who beat him until he died when Peter was 10. Afterward Peter had to survive on the streets by stealing and fighting. One day during a fight, his opponent slashed his face with a knife and Peter ended up in the hospital. He blamed himself for what happened and that day he promised to always find the light even during the darkest times. If he wins, he'll use the money to help orphans. By mile 306, Stebbins points out that they shouldn't help each other anymore or this will never end. The others agree even if it makes them feel awful. When Arthur's nose starts bleeding, the others have to pretend not to care. This causes Kali to snap, so he runs ahead and steals a gun from a soldier to shoot him to death. The boys are devastated to watch how Kali is shot down in return. Kali refuses to let them have his death too and self-deletes before they can finish him. At mile 324, Arthur's nosebleed gets worse. Peter and Ray drop the deal and help him walk, but Arthur knows he doesn't have too much time left. He begs his friends to give his locket to his grandmother when they win. Arthur also asks them not to turn around before he pulls away from them. He walks toward the truck and the soldiers quickly kill him. Night falls by mile 326. The 3 final players cross a bridge while the major keeps talking to them. Ray is annoyed and starts insulting him, but the major isn't bothered. He thinks those are the killer instincts needed by a winner. Stebbins uses the chance to reveal that he's one of the Major's dozens of illegitimate sons and his wish is to live in his father's house. However, he can feel his organs failing and he wants this to end already. Stebbins says it's been an honor to walk with them and that he's happy that the winner will be Peter or Ray. Then he stops walking and the soldiers shoot him down without his father caring. Moments later it starts to rain. Ray admits he used to be afraid of death, but after seeing so many boys die, he isn't afraid anymore because this moment is important. By mile 331 the duo reaches a town where a huge crowd is cheering for them. Peter stops and says he wants to give up so Ray can reunite with his mother, but Ray refuses and convinces him to keep going. Then Peter walks ahead, unaware that Ray has stopped behind him. Soon the soldiers shoot him down and Peter tries to come back for him, but since he's the winner the soldiers drag him away. Ray tells Peter that he loves him and apologizes to his mother before the Major appears to execute the final shot that kills him. The crowd cheers and fireworks fill the sky while Peter has a breakdown. The Major congratulates Peter and asks for his wish. Peter says he wants a soldier's gun so he can pass it to his kids one day as a symbol of his victory. The soldiers are wary but the Major tells them to grant his wish since Peter is a good man. As soon as Peter grabs the gun he points it at the Major, who tries to calm him down and reminds him of the fame and fortune. A crying Peter just replies this is for Ray before shooting the Major on the spot. Then he drops the gun and walks away.